Before Pyrrhus arrived in Italy and the Battle of Heraclea took place, the Romans had been effectively applying a concept that would later be known as Lebensraum. They initially conquered their neighboring regions and then expanded further, reaching as far north as the Po Valley and as far south as the heel of Italy. The Roman advance in the south began with the conquest of Capua in Campania in 343 BC. During the period between 326 and 290 BC, the Romans successfully fought against the Samnites to gain control of central Italy. In the early 3rd century BC, the Greek colonies located in the heel of Italy faced the ambitions of the expanding Roman Empire. These Hellenic colonies lacked sufficient military strength and didn't pose a threat to the Romans. Instead, they sought Roman assistance in dealing with the native Lucanians. As a result, colonies like Thurii, Croton, Locris, and Rhegion willingly placed themselves under Roman influence, accepting Roman garrisons in their cities. The only exception was the city of Tarentum, which attempted to maintain its complete independence. In the year 333, a treaty was established between Tarentum and the Roman Republic, which stipulated that Rome would not sail beyond Cape Colonna in Licinium. However, under the pretext of needing to reach the city of Turioi by sea, Roman warships sailed beyond Cape Colonna, effectively violating the terms of the treaty with Tarentum. Initially, the Tarentines did not take direct action, but when a Roman fleet of 10 triremes approached their harbor seeking anchorage, they revolted. The citizens of Tarentum launched an attack on the nearby Roman ships, successfully sinking 4 of them. This incident marked the beginning of a conflict between Rome and Tarentum, but Tarentum, unlike Rome, was ill-prepared for a military struggle. As a result, Tarentum looked for external assistance and salvation, finding the ideal leader in Pyrrhus, the king of Epirus located across the Ionian Sea. Negotiations and contacts between the Tarentines and Pyrrhus started in 283, culminating in a formal alliance in the year 281 BC. Pyrrhus of Epirus was a multifaceted figure, serving as a Greek adventurer, general, king, and soldier. Upon his arrival in southern Italy, he led his main army out of his base in Tarentum, comprising approximately 30,000 soldiers. Most of his forces were brought with him from overseas. Pyrrhus's army consisted 3,000 advanced guards, probably hypaspists, led by Milo, 20,000 troops consisting of phalangites, hoplites, and peltasts, with 5,000 Macedonian mercenaries provided by Ptolemy. Additionally, he had 3,000 horsemen, which included a Thessalian horseman unit, 2,000 archers, and 500 Rhodian slingers. Notably, Pyrrhus possessed 20 war elephants with towers carrying troops. Despite this formidable force, he lacked strong local support, enlisting only around 6,000 levy hoplites and 1,000 cavalry from Tarentum. Upon receiving news of Pyrrhus's arrival in Italy, the Romans swiftly assembled a formidable force of about 80,000 soldiers, organized into 8 legions along with auxiliary units. These forces were divided into 4 distinct armies, each with its specific objectives. One army, led by Barbula, was tasked with keeping the Samnites and Lucanians occupied to prevent their potential alliance with Pyrrhus. This force was stationed in Venusia. A second army was stationed in Rome itself to ensure the security of the city. A third army, under the command of Consul Tiberius Coruncanius, marched against the Etruscans, aiming to prevent any collaboration between them and Pyrrhus. A fourth army, commanded by Publius Valerius Lavinus, advanced toward Tarentum. Lavinus aimed to engage Pyrrhus as far away from Roman territory as possible, hoping to intimidate him. This force consisted of 4 legions comprised of Roman citizens, with each legion having around 4,200 to 5,000 infantry, resulting in a total of 20,000 infantry. Additionally, there were 4 legions of allied troops, with a combined strength of 16,800 soldiers. To supplement this, there were 2,400 light infantry from Bruttians and Campanian allies. The cavalry consisted of approximately 1,200 Roman horsemen, 3,600 allied cavalry, and 1,200 light cavalry from southern Italy. This comprehensive deployment demonstrated the Romans' determination to effectively counter Pyrrhus and his forces. Pyrrhus's army advanced to a strategic location between Pandocia and Heraclea, to the southwest of Metapontum. He wisely positioned his camp with the river Cyrus in front, adding a contingent of around 3,000 missile men to guard their side of the riverbank. Pyrrhus himself remained with the main army at a distance, keeping his troops in a relaxed state. While Pyrrhus sought to buy time for potential allies to join him, he didn't wish to avoid a battle if pressed by the enemy. Before the battle, Pyrrhus sent diplomats to the Roman consul, offering to arbitrate the conflicts between Rome and the population of southern Italy. He claimed that his allies recognized him as a fair judge and demanded the same recognition from the Romans. Unfortunately, the Romans rejected this proposal and proceeded to enter the plain on the right side of the Cyrus River, where they established their camp. The Romans displayed an unusual level of aggression and confidence, believing that dealing with Pyrrhus's army would be as easy as their previous encounters with the Tarentine levies. Their approach relied more on strength and persistence than on strategic considerations. Consequently, they didn't conduct proper reconnaissance before the battle, mistakenly identifying Pyrrhus's elephants, located at a distance from their camp, as Lucanian buffaloes. This clash marked the first historical encounter between two very different military powerhouses, the Roman legion and the Macedonian phalanx. The Romans, known for their preference for direct and forceful tactics over intricate maneuvering, decided to seize the initiative. At the break of dawn, they initiated their move by starting to cross the river with their legionnaires at a location where the river could be forded. Following closely behind, their cavalry charged through the river, catching the Pyrrhic River Guard off guard. The swift and unexpected advance of the Roman forces overwhelmed the Pyrrhic River Guard, who found themselves overrun by the enemy. Faced with the Roman onslaught, the Pyrrhic River Guard was forced to retreat rapidly to the safety of the main camp, all the while raising the alarm to alert the main Pyrrhic army about the developing situation. In response to the Roman initiative, Pyrrhus swiftly took action by personally leading a contingent of 3,000 skilled Thessalian cavalrymen directly into the enemy's ranks. When Pyrrhus observed the gleaming multitude of Roman shields lining the riverbank and their cavalry advancing with discipline, he promptly organized his own forces into a closely packed formation and led them into a decisive attack. Simultaneously, Pyrrhus ordered his infantry, including peltasts, archers, and heavily armored soldiers, to begin their advance as well. The Thessalians, renowned as the finest horsemen in the world at that time, engaged the enemy and achieved victory. However, the Romans continued their river crossing and engaged the Pyrrhic forces with considerable numbers. In the midst of the chaotic frontline clash, Pyrrhus found himself dangerously close to the combat. His horse, along with his companions, brought him within fighting distance of many Roman adversaries. Pyrrhus, being distinct in his royal attire from the rest of his troops and companions, became a prime target for glory-seeking enemies who sought to eliminate the opposing leader. Despite the perilous situation, Pyrrhus managed to halt the advance of the Roman infantry and cavalry until his well-organized phalanx approached and entered the battle. Pyrrhus's peltasts, slingers, and archers began to shoot, and his sarissa-wielding phalanxes began to attack. The infantry line was near equal to the Romans in length, as, although Pyrrhus had a small advantage in number, the phalanx was by design deeper than the legion. As the phalanx advanced, the pikemen, armed with their menacing sarissas, faced a relentless hail of pila, the Roman javelins, hurled by the hastati. The pikemen pressed forward, their serried ranks presenting an impenetrable wall, thwarting the valiant efforts of the individual legionnaires. Roman tactics were met with formidable opposition. Brave legionnaires attempted daring maneuvers, rolling under the deadly pikes in a desperate bid to break the phalanx, but these daring, forlorn hopes were met with swift and ruthless retaliation, resulting in heavy losses. Even hacking at the spear points proved a desperate, albeit futile, measure. The maniples, struggling to halt the relentless advance of the phalanx, found themselves unable to stem the tide. As the Hastati line was decimated, it began to fall back, and the Principes, resolute in the face of adversity, stepped forward to take up the struggle. A series of fierce clashes ensued, marked by charges and countercharges delivered by both sides. The Romans, frustrated by the unyielding wall of pikes, sought to pierce the formidable line of Epirot and Macedonian warriors. However, the seasoned Phalangites, keenly aware of the danger posed by the compact maniple formations, denied the Romans any opportunity to penetrate their ranks. The phalanxes made 7 attacks, but failed to pierce the legion. It had met a foe that was stronger than any it had ever encountered. The Romans made 7 attacks, yet they could not break the phalanx. The battle hung in the balance, a testament to the strength and skill of both the Roman legion and the Macedonian phalanx. Pyrrhus, observing the unfolding events, was fortunate that the river crossing had channeled the Roman advance, preventing the allied legions from deploying on a wide enough front to effectively flank the Epirot battle line. The roles of the Tarentines and the allied legions remained unclear, their impact possibly neutralizing each other in the intricate dance of warfare. At one point, the battle became so pitched that Pyrrhus, realizing that if he were to fall in combat, his soldiers would lose heart and run, switched armor with one of his companions, Megacles. As stalemate seemed to be spread across the battle line, a Roman officer named Dexus killed Megacles and carried Pyrrhus's goat-horned helmet and cloak to Lavinius, shouting to all that Pyrrhus was dead. The Romans, at their lowest ebb, were rejuvenated, and the Epirotes wavered and fell back. Pyrrhus took off his helmet and rode in front of the lines to show his troops the ruse. This dramatic display saved his army, and they stood their ground once again. Witnessing Pyrrhus alive and realizing the potential threat, Roman General Laevinus made a crucial decision. He ordered all his reserve cavalry to engage the enemy and attempt to outmaneuver them. Pyrrhus, determined to prevent any further surprises and the danger of being outflanked, responded by unleashing his reserve elephants, which had been held in readiness until that moment. This was the first time the Romans had faced such immense and powerful creatures, and they quickly discovered their overwhelming strength. As the elephants charged, Roman horses went out of control, adding to the chaos, while the foot soldiers, armed with the standard Roman weapon known as the gladius, found themselves utterly incapable of dealing with these massive opponents. The gladius, designed for close combat, proved ineffective against the elephants. The sheer size and ferocity of the charging elephants instilled panic and terror among the Roman ranks, leading to the legions breaking and dispersing. Pyrrhus, capitalizing on the disarray among the Romans, launched a vigorous pursuit with his skilled Thessalian cavalry, aiming to further exploit the situation. The Roman army, with their backs to the stream, could have faced complete annihilation if not for a pivotal event. Gaius Minucius, a Hastate from the 4th Legion, managed to wound Pyrrhus's leading elephant, causing it to bolt back through the Epirot phalanx. The sudden halt caused by the fleeing elephant disrupted the phalanx formation, creating a temporary pause in the Epirot advance. Seizing this opportunity, the Roman forces melted away in confusion and disarray, ultimately resulting in a rout. The battle was a near-run thing for Pyrrhus. It is stated that the Romans lost 7,000 killed and carried away 6,000 wounded. 2,000 prisoners were taken. But unlike Alexander's victories, Pyrrhus's army suffered up to 4,000 dead themselves, including his general Megacles and many of his closest companions. The Battle of Heraclea, beyond victory on the field, also marked a political and strategic victory for Pyrrhus. Thus, acting on the news of a Pyrrhic victory, the Hellenic colonies of southern Italy, especially Locris and Croton, now rallied to the side of the Epirot, abandoning their ties with the Romans. Also, the indigenous populations of the Samnites and the Lucanians officially declared themselves on the side of Pyrrhus. After receiving these new allies, Pyrrhus could expand his territory of safe march and secure a reliable supply line that stretched at a greater distance. More importantly, he quickly replaced his losses by drawing troops from the new allies and even increasing the size of his army. Although Pyrrhus technically won the battle, he lost an important part of his army along with his most experienced officers, who were nearly impossible to replace. It is estimated that Pyrrhus may have lost 15% of his entire force in this single engagement. The Romans, who also suffered casualties, could draw upon greater reserves of manpower and resources from allies to rebuild their strength. Romans did not give up after losing a single battle, though, and they were not inclined to treat for terms, especially because they had all the necessary tools in place to raise another army and continue fighting. A truce declined. Both sides prepared for the next battle over the coming months, which took place at Asculum in 279 BCE, roughly midway between Tarentum and Rome.